everybody, and welcome to the last Tuesday of February. So, if you were listening to the music, it kind of threw me because I hadn't heard this new music. It's a StreamYard music. So, um, yeah, it's gonna be a fun day today. It's gonna be informative. I mean, we're talking applied anthropology for society, something that's really new, and I mean, a new topic for me to be talking about. And then it's going to be a conversation that for many it's going to be an eye opener. Open up something new that you're not familiar with. But first off, we're going to start with the announcements. I mean, most everybody's used to this by now. And the first thing is check in on those around you. There's going to be a lot of people in our lives who have gone through something positive, negative, but especially when you have those moments where it could be a medical emergency, it could be something with family, so many different things, job, work related, and it creates trauma, it creates difficulties that they're struggling through. And while we're often there at the beginning, over time, there's this tendency to look at people and say, oh, well, they're doing fine. I see them smiling. I see them doing this and that. But that doesn't mean that they are. That doesn't mean that inside they're still not past the trauma that occurred from the first place. So check in on those around you. See how they're doing. Make sure that they're doing okay, because we're all very good at wearing a mask, and that mask hides everything behind it. And we need to get to the point where in this world, we don't have to worry about the mask. And if it's somebody who tells you that you check in and they're like, oh, I'm doing fine, I'm doing all right, don't quite believe them. Because as Agape said a few weeks ago, fine is feelings inside, not exposed. And I really like that term. I like how she put that together. So check on them, see how they're doing. In terms of sponsors, my dear sister with Level Up Academy, Dr. Constance Leland. She does so many different things. Educator, and she's in almost everywhere in social media. She's got shows Wednesday, Thursday at this same time. Her TV show, first one is Thursday at this time, and her Sunday show is at 7 p.m. Pacific and 10 p.m. Eastern. So check those out. She has all this access to press releases. There's a reason why she's basically the publication queen. She has her own press release studio. She's got access to all these different industries, and her press releases are amazing. Scan the QR code, check it out. Like I said, she's got podcasts, she's got radio, TV, live stream. She is on, and she's even got influencer, because she does that on Fridays, I believe. So she is on almost daily. Check her out, see what's happening. I absolutely adore everything, and I do so much with her too. We do a lot of things together. There's the Hounds of Business, collaboration over competition. It's such an important thing. A lot of people, they feel like they have to compete. Somebody else is doing the same thing, they got to compete with them. The Hounds of Business is a community that shows you don't have to compete all the time. And that's the way Mike Aschenbrenner, the leader of the Hounds, put this together. Collaboration. I've seen people who do basically the same thing work together on a project, and it benefits both of them significantly because they're sharing all the work that goes into it. They're increasing their audiences. Because you got to remember, with a world of 8 billion people, you can't cover 8 billion people no matter what you're going to try. But together, you can cover a whole lot more ground than just one person. So collaboration over competition. And then there's C&M Consulting, my dear sister Danielle. CMC CMC CNM Consulting is a leading management and advisory consulting firm specializing in human resources. CMC centers around empathy-driven and heart-led solutions. Ensure compliance with regulatory requirements while fostering a culture of trust and workplace excellence. So if you're looking at HR, you're looking at some of the stuff that you are trying to do on HR for training, reach out. CNM Consulting, CMC, they're really good at what they're doing. And again, that's my dear sister Danielle. I like to go back to Against the Grain because that was our last anthology at the end of the year last year, our fourth anthology of the year that had each of them reached #1 international bestseller. My dear sister there on the screen on that left side, it's been such a pleasure working with her on all of these anthologies. And as you can see up on the top row, second from the right, that would be today's guest. So that was his second anthology with us, which was a lot of fun. And then this is what we're in right now. We're in the writing process for the Chronicles of Scattered Pages, Stories from Everywhere. This book will be coming out next month. So we are now in the midst of writing. We've got our authors doing their chapters. It's going to be a lot of fun with this because it's very unique for us. Our anthologies usually have a theme. The theme for this book is no theme. And that's the fun part, because I get to watch my sis go, oh, what's going to happen? And it's going to be great. It's going to be another amazing book of stories. And this is where people get to do what they want. And it's a variety. I've already seen some of what's coming, and I love the variety within this book. So you're going to get so much to choose from, so much to read. And then academic publishing. If you have a master's, a doctorate of business, a PhD, scan the QR codes if you want to join us. You got until the end of the week, basically. End of the month, end of the week, and everything is going to start. We're actually having our first meeting today, right after this show. And it's going to be the kind of book that academic, it's going to end up in 6 different countries, that languages. It's going to be 1 book in 6, or 6 books in 1. So this one, after the research is done, as you get your paper put together, there's going to be a summit in April, and then it's going to be published in May. So there's not a lot of seats available. If you want it, scan the QR code. Again, touch base with my dear sister, Dr. Constance Leland, because this is what's she's the one that's in charge of this. And part of it is getting a little bit more training on what it means to do an academic paper. And these are going to be around 3,000 words per chapter. The topics are selected, but you get your choice of topics. And as it says, it doesn't matter what your discipline is. Just come join us and check out the topics and be a part of it. It's going to be a lot of fun. And let's see who's here before I bring up Russ. Russ is the first one here. Awesome. So happy to see you, Russ. Sending love and prayers your way because I know you're going through so much. And Leanna, I was in a project with Leanna a while ago, as was Dr. Leland. So it's wonderful to see you here as well. And there's the queen herself. She does have a crown too. So every once in a while you get to see her in a crown. It's a lot of fun. I adore my sits. If you haven't figured that out, where you've been under a rock or something, because she is freaking amazing. And yes, I decided to go with the pink today. and a little bit new Populush too. So I got a brown one now. Hey, Populush is too much fun. But let's skip that and let's bring up Miguel. Hey, Miguel, how's it going?
Hello, Susanna. How are you? I'm doing well.
And get ready, she's going to tell you to smile too, because that's what she does.
Mhm.
It's great having you. And you, let's see, I'm getting ready to be in my third book with you, actually, because you were in Rebel with a Cause and Against the Grain, and you're in the academic book too. So
Yes, and it's exciting. I'm looking forward to that. Those who know me, I just finished my master's degree, and that's what I'm going to be hopefully writing about in this academic uh, project that we're going to be working on together.
it's gonna be fun. I know there's lots of topics. Have you figured out your topic yet?
It's going to be surrounding entrepreneurs with disabilities
Okay.
and how we can show up for them better in a society where we're supposed to be expecting of certain things, but yet we don't receive them.
Well, and I love it too because what you're talking about fits with belonging and a lot of other things that I talk about, um, because it's important. We need to feel like we belong. We need to be in those spaces that we're getting what we need because we're all unique, and we need to lift each other up, or as Sis would say, level up everybody. But what's been going on with you right now? Because I know it's been a while since you've been on, and besides graduating, I know there's a lot of things that seem to be on your plate right now.
Well, like I said, I'm looking forward to getting my academic work out there published. And currently, now at the moment as well, I'm doing some new initiatives regarding business. And my company has joined a collective, a coalition locally here in New York City surrounding mental health. And that's the latest thing I've been working on. I joined the collective as an anthropologist. I'll be their ethnographer, um, observing the subculture of people who have mental health here in New York.
Okay, and just for the fun of it, what is ethnography?
Well, ethnography is it's defined as the scientific observation of subcultures. And if you think about what a subculture is, it's an underlying group or populace within the main overall society. And then how does one go about scientifically observing that? Well, it would be either through surveys. Ethnography is the process it's called, and really just it relates to their experiences more to than outcomes. What are these individuals enduring? What are they going through? What are they learning? How do they feel about it? And this knowledge often gets overlooked, particularly in public advocacy and services, where particularly in education as well, where they're just concerned about assessments and outcomes, and we're forgetting about the human experience, what these people are enduring, what are they learning, how are they advancing, and so the role of ethnography is really to lift that up. It is a scientific process, but at the same time, it's about the human experience, the person, the individual. And then my goal to bring this group with this group is I'm creating their data plan. It's a new initiative, and I'm creating their data plan. I'm helping them. We're launching a Instagram campaign. We're gathering other co-sponsors who want to join into the coalition. We're going to be interviewing mayoral candidates. We're having our local primaries coming up soon here in New York City, and I
Is
get
that
to be
that
involved in that.
that graphic you have for me?
Yes.
Let me put it up here so you have it.
Excellent, thank you. So this is what we're promoting now, the Mental Health Mayoral Town Hall. It's planned on May 1st. And this ties into my background in my education, my recent education, just finishing the master's in urban studies. Prior to the master's in urban studies, I earned an advanced certificate in community leadership. And this is a perfect example of what community leadership is, in being involved in civic processes and how we can bring grassroots initiatives and movements into the political process. And this is very, very exciting. That right after finishing my education, I was able to get into this opportunity. And it's to hold these mayoral candidates accountable, particularly to this subculture we're observing as the collective of individuals who have mental health concerns in New York City. And this has been probably week 4, very recent. I've joined the collective. So I'm coming in, like I said, as their ethnographer, who will be the person overseeing how are we documenting this subculture in a way that we all collectively desire in a coalition. And if people aren't sure what a coalition is a collection of different organizations, different businesses. Um, if you think of a normal, regular business structure, if you start a nonprofit, you'd have to have, your board members. If you're creating a S corp, you need the president, vice president, secretary, all of that. But when it comes to a coalition, those member organizations are other businesses that are already operating. And then so it's a unique business format, business structure, but it also can be very powerful because all of these individual organizations working collectively, we all have our own resources, we all have our own niches, we all have our own outreach. And collectively, yes, we're all focused on this one mission.
Yeah, and we don't. I don't feel like we talk much about coalitions, even though they're out there all over the place. Um, because as you were talking about it, I would go to co-op, and it's like, no, co-op is not the same thing.
Yeah, correct. I had learned what co-ops were in my master's education as well. And a co-op as an opportunity to have the people own something, have
Right.
individuals owning something, being involved in their own advancement, human individuals. But a coalition, different type of business structure formatting, where it's individual organizations coming together. It's a member organization, similar to a co-op. Co-ops are member-based organizations,
Right.
um, but in a coalition, the members are not individual human beings. The members are made up of other business entities. It's very exciting.
Well, I feel like as you say that, um, I think about a lot of different groups, like business groups, and they don't necessarily call themselves an alliance, but really there's that similarity to it because they have memberships and they have a focus. So yeah, I'm loving this, and I look forward to seeing how this whole process goes for you because I know how excited you are for this, and the fact that you've got this mental health town hall for the mayor candidates of New York is. Has there ever been anything like that before? Do you know?
This is the second. This is going to be the second annual mental health mayoral town hall.
Okay,
The coalition did have one last term, 4 years ago. This will be the second one. I've recently joined the coalition, so this will be the first one I'm working on.
right,
But it's interesting if you think about it, and to get back to what you were saying about coalitions, mostly coalitions that do form, those are the ones for industry,
right.
for promoting industry. Oh, let's have a trade show, for this industry, and we get all the businesses in this particular industry together. to promote our own industry. So that is pretty much self-involved um, objective, I would say, in my opinion. So it's interesting to hear about a grassroots coalition, one with, we're not focusing on a particular industry, we're focusing on a particular populace, particular subculture, and directly relating to civic processes. And it's interesting, how can you get people, how do you even get the opportunity to interview mayoral candidates? Like how is this even possible? How is this even a thing? And yeah, I'm very excited to be a part of it. We are looking for co-sponsors, for other co-sponsors to join the coalition. If they have to be local New York businesses. If you do operate a business in New York City, please feel free to reach out to me. I can forward you a co-sponsor letter. And we're not really asking for too much. Just be involved. And yeah, I look forward to definitely continuing this process. We have been 2 meetings every week, and yeah, I'm hitting the ground running on this one.
Well, and you made a comment too about grassroots. I feel like you've been involved in grassroots stuff throughout. Because it just feels like when you say the word grassroots, I think of you for some reason.
Thank you very much. I appreciate hearing that. My my shtick really is mutual aid. I want to promote mutual aid, and mutual aid can be done outside of corporate, outside of business structure. Mutual aid is just humans helping humans. And this is something that I think can truly change overall society. It can truly have an impact. If anyone who studied a little bit of history, with the Black Panthers and the Young Lords, civics had an issue with these organizations providing mutual aid to their own communities, where people were actually threatened and had been detained and arrested just for providing free meals to people who look just like them, who live in their neighborhoods. And then, so this is something that has gone to the wayside. I learned in my education that not, nonprofit structures, corporate foundations, these are the things that get uplifted, put on pedestals most of the time. But I learned that foundations and nonprofits only provide 1 to 3% of their endowments back to the community. This is a lot of, and I consider this equity. It's called equity. Um,
Mhm.
you know, this collective monies being siphoned from members of the community, and then it's being gatekept. It's being held in bank accounts, and it's collecting interest, and it's not being returned to the persons who provided it. And then, so mutual aid is a way to combat that. And that's really what I want to get more involved in, is mutual aid, empowering people to help themselves. And yeah, thank you.
Well, aren't there when you talk about that, and I'm thinking about, because 1 to 3% is not much, especially when you think about how much some of them have. And I feel like there are some organizations out there too, though, that they actually track that stuff and provide the some sort of annual reports, I think, on who's giving the most, or where's the most bang for your buck. I think that's kind of how they normally go.
Right. But at the participant level, I myself, I'm someone who, I have disability myself, so I'm part of the community. And as someone, it's frustrating, when you go and do this intake process. Particularly the intake process is what I have issue with. You go, you're in need, you have and it's indicated you have this need, and then you go and do this intake process. You're there for like an hour, 2 hours, and you're providing these people your information, you're opening up, you're digging up trauma and issue, asking for help. And then after that intake, then you're told, well, we don't have the resources for to help you out. Listen, why are you doing intakes? And then if you think about it further, well, they're still doing the intake, already knowing they don't have the resources to provide what they themselves offer. But now by them doing that intake, they can check off a box that, okay, well, we now have one more client. And that one client who is not receiving anything because you're not don't have the resources to give to them, but because you mark them off as an intake, now you can claim them as a client. Now you can add that client to your grant application as a nonprofit advocacy organization asking for more resources, which you are not going to give to that individual who just finished the intake with you. And once again, this is a community equity issue, power being taken from the community and just being gate kept.
I feel like there's probably a lot of that going on. Uh,
Yeah,
and it doesn't make sense to me why. Oh, anyway, it's it's a whole different field, and I know I'm looking into the nonprofit world as well, so that's another place of I guess it's another place that I'm gonna have to talk with my dear sis about how do we level it up because uh, it needs to be. I mean, if you don't have the funds for the people, then why are you intaking? And I can already hear the answers. It's like, well, we need the numbers to get the more money, but that doesn't mean that those that are already in your numbers are going to get the money. So
right. I mean, just me as personally as an individual, it happened to me. Um, Getting case management services. And then I'm doing the intake, and I'm like, okay, well, what can you offer me? What are you doing for me? And then I said, well, why are you asking me to do the intake for you to fill out your grant application? You put me on your grant application, but then I'm walking out of here with nothing, no avail for me. But yet, and then once again tying it into that knowledge that I already have of, well, you're only giving 1 to 3% of your endowment, so why are you so proactively chasing more endowment? You're asking for more resources when the clients aren't getting anything and you're only distributing 1 to 3% of it. Why the constant amassing of, once again, equity? It's equity. It's cash, but it's equity. It's the equity because this money, this collective money, is not in the hands of the people any longer. It's now behind this organization, which would rather invest it in their own initiatives than honestly place it back into the hands of the people.
yeah, I feel like endowments is a place to actually look a little deeper because I know part of it is going to be you've got to have so much that you can basically live off of it in perpetuity, or at least I think that's what they're trying to do. But then the question is, how do you make sure that you maximize the help? Because I hear endowments for universities, endowments for art, endowments for everything. And I think it's become just another one of those words of a stack of money that you don't quite understand the process, the system of.
Right. And here in New York, particularly, I'm not sure how it is in the rest of the nation, but now they're promoting it's called participatory budgeting. And participatory budgeting actually began in South America, I believe, where they want the people, they allocate an amount of money. Here in New York, it was $1 million. I think now they're boosting it up to $10 million. And they're actually asking the community, what should we spend this money on? You know, and it sounds good. Like, wow, they're actually asking us, what would we prefer to have this money spent on? But in reality, the way my mind works, the way I'm envisioning it is okay, now you're spending money on advertising this initiative. You're spending money on putting together the flyers to promote this initiative. You're spending money on the locales so that you can invite the people to host the people to come and be involved in this participatory budgeting. And then, so that is taxpayer dollars being
Right.
spent on the administration of a program which sounds lofty, it sounds nice and inclusive, but yet at the same time, that $1 million, that $10 million is still sitting in a bank account somewhere, not being spent, while administratively the taxpayer dollars are being spent to push the program out there as well. So it's um, I'm not sure how to what a good word would be to explain that, but I can see an issue with that because I went to a participatory budgeting event, and then the city had these nice printout things for us, and then by the end of the event, guess what happened? The nonprofit just threw all of that into the garbage. And as I'm walking out the event, I'm like, okay, that's taxpayer money right there, just sitting in the trash.
Well, yeah, you would think that they would redo. That's what we're supposed to do: reuse, recycle, reuse it as much as possible. Oh, yeah. I'm just thinking that through. It's like it's kind of like that chicken and the egg question, because how do you know what to spend it on if you want to ask people? But then if you're going to ask people, then the question becomes, how do you pick after you talk to people?
Right. And the logistics, people don't think about the logistics. They're just thinking about, oh wow, I'm being involved in this. So yeah, it's 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 good in a way, but the practicality of it, and then these are ideas and initiatives being ran by politicians who, have interns scheduling everything for them, and then in partnership with nonprofits who may already have questionable practices in their administration as well. When in reality, just spend the money on the people. Just spend the money on the people, um, without gatekeeping so much.
Yeah, I'm thinking this through. It's like, okay, so if I had a chunk of money, how do I even figure out where to spend it?
Right.
And,
And
and
then if you
does
think
it?
about it, that's why you were voted in that position too. You know what I mean? You were elected to oversee this. So that, like, why now are you like passing the buck? You're diluting your own position, your own role, in the name of what, a lofty participatory budgeting. So and so you're not spending the money on anything until an idea is determined on what it will be spent on, but you're spending money extra of that just to ask the questions. And I took issue with this personally.
Well, I get that, because it's one of the reasons a lot of them are probably doing it is reelection. They want
Correct.
to make sure that they're doing and saying the right thing to get reelected. Um,
But also to hold on to that money as well as much as possible, to hold on to it as long as they can as well, under the guise of innovative thinking in civic processes. The participatory budgeting worked well. I believe it was in Brazil was the case example it first came out in, but here it's not as effective as the case we're referencing in Brazil.
any ideas why that would be?
Once again, I think it's, we're dealing, New York's like a big union town as well. There's union interest involved, labor interest. And like you said, like, I registered to vote as an independent. Interestingly, in New York, I'm not allowed to vote in the primaries because I filed as an independent. Um, and this is just New York state law that if I want to vote in the primaries, I need to either choose Democrat or Republican. And
Yeah, we're the same here in Oregon. It's like you have to be Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, whatever parties are there, and if you're independent, you just get to vote on the stuff that is not party related.
yeah, like I could vote for the president, but I can't vote for my own mayor if I'm an independent.
Now, is that the final vote, or is that through the like the preliminary process?
Well, it's different. Like we're having the elections for our new mayor. They're coming up right away. We want to have the mayoral town hall in May, and but then also like our current mayor, if anyone knows, Mayor Eric Adams, um, he's being indicted for fraud, and the governor decided to allow him to keep his position. And like this is another thing where like when issues arise, there's not a quick remedy. There's not a solution. It's just like, okay, well, just let it ride out. Just let it play out. And it's like, okay, when are we going to throw the anchor? Like, let's just throw the anchor out and stop this boat here right now. Slow down the momentum. Why keep allowing the ship to keep going forward when we know there's a problem already? And so this initiative, the mayoral mental health town hall, it's a way where we can try to get some accountability from these people who are asking to be in office by us getting to ask them the questions we want to ask, um, in a forum and in a space we allocate and we decide. And just leading by example, I find that to be a very provocative one and very innovative. And I think it can be very meaningful. And that's why I decided to get involved.
And how does all of this fit, or your focus on applied anthropology, especially when it comes to society?
Well, for me, I'm creating the data plan. So like I'm managing all of the information, and then creating the data plan. The coalition, different organizations, they all have their own interests, their own vetted niches, and all this. So as me as the ethnographer, my focus is on, like I said, the subculture, the people who have mental health concerns. So by me having that role in that position, I look at all the data and then I say, look, this is what we're all collectively looking at. This is what we're all going to collectively be messaging. Um, I've had co-sponsors. Well, I'd like to say this and I'd like to say this. I said, and then my inkling is to let them know, okay, well, we need to discuss unmet needs. All these they want to promote. Well, this is what we're doing and this is what we're doing. Okay, but we need to speak about the unmet needs. So and then so I guess it takes a little bit of training as well. I do get a little bit of resistance. I'm used to that as well. There are a lot of things I want to be involved in. Um, I wanted to say this too. Like I'm a business owner. I started my own company. I did all of this, but it's like I've applied for executive assistant roles. I've applied for all these different types of jobs elsewhere, and no one's getting back to me. I've appeared in community roles, volunteer roles, and then I get resistance and flack. Actually, that's what I speak of in the Against the Grain chapter, is me involving myself voluntarily in community initiatives, and then that same system is what's preventing me from moving forward in that. And then so it was very enlightening when I came to the first meeting of this collective, and then the main person organizing it just spoke one or two sentences, and then the main person organizing it, just came out her mouth. Wow, this is so much value. This is so much value. And that impacted me. And I'm like, wow. I just spoke two sentences, and then it's being recognized as valuable. And that was, going out of the box. It took me out of the box that I was being placed in, as opposed to, oh, this guy, we don't even acknowledge him. What he's saying is far fetched. And then I'm in this space, a community that I'm a part of, that I identify with, and I'm being valued. And so it's powerful, and that's why we need more spaces and opportunities like this, where to hold those in power accountable. And once again, I that's what my shtick is I want to give equity back to the community, and it should remain in the community.
Right.
And then so the applied anthropology aspect is, okay, like I had started out with, it's not about outcomes when you're doing anthropology, ethnography. It's not about the outcomes. It's not about the mission goals. It's not about the end game. It's about the life of these individuals. How do we document that? How do we respect that? We were speaking, for example, okay, well, how can we do street interviews? Let's do some street interviews, get some people questioning. And right away, I had to put my foot down. I said, well, we need to give these people autonomy. You know what I mean? They have to provide consent. We need to document consent. You know what I mean? How can we go about documenting consent? And someone was like, well, if they're willingly giving us the information on the video, I said, it's not about liability. Yes, it's about avoiding liability, but it's about respecting the individual enough to give them that opportunity, to that autonomy, as to say, well, yes, um, I am acknowledging, I'm providing you, I'm allowing you to share my information, and it's about respect.
But I see that, and as you're talking through that, I'm thinking, okay, you're going to get that same. You're going to have anybody else sign that same type of a document before you interview them.
Mhm.
So why are we viewing anybody else any differently?
Right,
Because if you're going to do it for this group, you should do it for that group.
right, right. But it was like a changing of mindset as well. They where, okay, well, yeah, I can understand the liability aspect, but at the same time, it's respect to the individual. You're showing respect to this individual by granting them that opportunity. Would you like to provide consent? Would you like to be involved in this? It's not just, okay, let's just grab the information however we can and run with it.
No, and I like that because again, too, as you talk about the anthropology aspect of it, it's like no endpoint, no goal, no focus. You're looking at how life was, and I think that is something that's different for a lot of people too, because we're always used to there has to be there has to be an end goal to whatever it is that you're doing, no matter what. If you're writing a book, you're working at this place, your company does X. There's always an end goal. There's always an objective to be met. And here, you're just talking about collecting stories
Yeah, the
and
lived experience.
trying to push them into a direction is just here's stories.
Here it is, and then here it is. Here's what they want to share. You know, no structured interviews. Like, what do you want to share? Here's a platform. We're providing the platform, and that is, kind of what I did in the first chapter I wrote of Rebel with a Cause as well. I was that project was, yeah, it was for myself because it was an education process. I was going about that process to finish my bachelor's degree, but at the same time, it was creating space and allowing others to be involved the way they want to be involved in. A lot of these nonprofit structures and organizations, they want to hold the hammer over your head, and it has to be like this, it has to be like this, it has to be like this. And then that turns people off and it turns people away. And then so I'm really grateful just as an individual. Like I said, I spoke one, two sentences that first meeting, and then just to come out of other people's mouth, wow, this is so much value. And it was just about respecting individuals and their autonomy. Because, in civic processes, autonomy gets thrown out the window most of the time. Civil proceedings, your autonomy gets thrown out the window. No one's looking at your autonomy. Even in these intake processes, oh, well, you don't want to follow our intake process? Once again, autonomy thrown out the window. And so, as the ethnographer for this group and for this collective, that's what I will be doing is keeping everyone on board. Once again, that the focus is this subculture and not your own individual initiatives. As we're gathering data and we're doing the Instagram campaign, oh, well, this is what we do, and this is what we offer, and this is what we do. Well, okay, but this is about the community. It's not necessarily about what outcomes you provide. This is about the community.
Yeah, no, I'm just kind of thinking through all this, um, a lot there, and the story aspect and the community aspect. There's so many different bits and pieces here. How do you even keep track of it all as you go through your own project? As you're thinking about this project that you're in the middle of right now, how do you keep track of what you're doing? And if your focus is to just get the stories and get to see the stories, how do you make sure that you stay there and maybe keep it from turning into an objective the way somebody wants it to be painted?
Well, yeah. So I've started with this is week 4 of me being in the initiative, but I started with the data plan. So I'm picking the resources, one, bringing everyone together by isolating the data points that we all collectively will be looking at and using. That constrains the narrative a little bit to where we want to be, where, we're asking the co-sponsors to provide us reports, if they have their own individual reports, annual reports that they come up with. But then at the same time, okay, it's not about the outcomes, it's about the community and about the individuals. And then so the way I'm keeping, like, I just have a document, I'm keeping it, and it just keeps expanding and expanding. But I haven't gathered any stories yet. I want to do
Right.
focus groups. That's where I want to go, but the collective now, since I've came on, hit the ground running, um, what I've been asked to do has deviated a little bit. But what I want to do focus groups, I want to do interviews. That's the applied aspect, is where I'm actually designing the research and I'm implementing the research process for particular applications. I haven't gotten there yet, but that's my goal. I want to create focus groups. We're looking for places who are willing to host us to do tabling. If I'm able to then be somewhere on site in person,
Mhm.
then I can collect qualitative data in person, during the tabling event. Um, and then this is like a real example of the need versus the implementation, because it's like now the stressful factor has been, okay, well, we got to push content out there. We got to push the content out there. Okay, but the content we're relying on now solely is only secondary data. It's information that's already been published. It's someone
Right.
else's information. And then so that really isn't indicative of, human experience and human culture. And then so I just came onto the initiative, so I'm slowly building that out. But yeah, I'm looking for places who are willing to host me, particularly on site in their organizations, so where I can start actively collecting this narrative, personal information, personally, and then I could start working with that primary data, which is information I gathered myself, and which is much more rich. And then it's just contrary to the ways usually organizations go about planning out their data initiatives.
Well, as a historian, I was a diplomatic historian, so primary data, that's the gold mine.
Hmm.
To be able to go, for me, it was the foreign relations of the US, to go through all those Secretary of State books and see what people really wrote,
Hmm.
not how somebody else interpreted it. To look at national security documents that pertain to what I was doing. I think it was NSC 68 is the one document I can remember the most, because it was both part of what I was writing. And then when I did my master's in international management, we had a political science class, and they gave us an article that quoted from NSC 68, but out of context. So I ripped the article apart, because it's like, you got to keep it in context. This is a primary source. It is not the thing you get to play with. So I kind of see the similarity with what
Yeah.
you're getting the primary, you're getting the questions, and then when you do this, is it just taking it down like a journalist? Are you recording it in any way? How do you go about getting all of this data?
Well, the data that we would first like to collect, primary data, is we want questions. We're going to be interviewing these mayoral candidates.
Mhm.
So we're not the ones coming up with the questions. We want the community to come up with the questions.
Okay.
So we're going out and asking, hey, what would you ask the mayoral candidate yourself regarding mental health? And so once we start getting, these lists of questions, then we're going to go through and start coding them. It's called thematic coding. You're basically categorizing the information. Okay, well, we got this many questions regarding policing. And there are this many questions regarding
Right.
um, supportive housing. Supportive housing is a big issue here in New York as well. And that is what I am looking forward to and what I want to get excited about. I'm also currently I'm just enrolled in a PhD program as well, and I just learned, which has me excited as well, that I'm a critical theorist. that that's the paradigm I have interest in observing. It's called critical theory, and particularly critical theory paradigm involves multiple mixed methods. You're going to do qualitative analysis, you're going to do quantitative analysis, you're going to, and but the purpose of critical theory paradigm is where you're specifically looking at institutions, you're particularly looking at politics, you're particularly looking at how systems, social systems and structures are affecting the human experience. And then so I'm grateful that I'm in the program I enrolled in for this PhD program, um, because like I literally just learned this, and I'm like, I used to say, I used to say critical thinking is a skill that's lacking. I used to think they offer critical thinking courses. I haven't seen a critical thinking course on a being offered lately. But for me to enter this academic program, and once again, I feel welcome there, and to learn that, okay, that there's a paradigm called critical theory, um, got me very excited. And so that's where the approach I'm coming from is. So pure anthropology would involve, like I said, the lived experiences, the documenting of the human experiences. But then when you apply your theoretical framework or your paradigm of critical theory to that investigation, then automatically you're involving societal structures and systems, racism, sociodemographics. All of that ties into a critical theory paradigm.
Okay. it's a lot, but I could see the excitement too. So it's
Yeah,
like I'm glad you found what it is that it's like it's like finding your space, finding
yeah.
that path that you're supposed to go on, moving beyond that box and saying, okay, now I know the path I'm going on. Is igniting your awareness of like, here I go, off we
This
go.
this is what I want to do. This makes sense to me. This calls to me. And it's funny because it's not something that calls most people. You know, most people aren't going to want to be critical of the workplace they're in. They're not going to be critical of benefits they themselves receive, their own privilege. Um, so I'm in a very unique position, and just working with my peers, most of them are involved in education, and I'm not an educator. I'm not a teacher, but it's just, but me observing them,
Right,
and how they speak about education and what's lacking in education and how these students don't know how to read. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, okay, once again, you're only concerned about outcomes, because of your profession as an educator. You're dealing with the assessments, the outcomes. How can I assess these students who don't know how to read? But then the critical theorist will say, okay, what are these systems of oppression that are keeping students from reading? It's a drastic contrast.
right. Well, I know you said you've got a hard stop and we've got something coming up afterwards. So we're down to about 3 minutes. And I would love for you to give any last minute nuggets that you have for anybody and how to get a hold of you.
Well, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn every day. So feel free to connect with me, send me a message on there. My business website is www.daar.llc. And essentially, yeah, I'm just looking forward to this new experience with being involved in this mental health collective. If anyone's local in the New York City area and they want to be involved, please feel free to reach out to me. And yeah, I look forward to grilling these mayoral candidates, um, in particular to mental health. And if you want to be involved in that, you're more than welcome. Thank you.
Awesome. It was great having you here. Great having everybody that showed up and to make sure we get off to the next place, get you out on time. I'm going to stop it here and say I will see everybody next week. Thank you
Thank
all
you,
for
everyone.
coming and thank you, Miguel. Bye.